the Abscondo podcast. So I've just returned from a 10-day camping trip to Croatia and have had plenty of time to think on the beach, at the campsite, looking up at the trees in my hammock. And I want to talk about union. More specifically, one-on-one or one-to-one relationships with people. So, at the campground, people were very friendly with each other. And I had a neighbor, a single guy. I was with my family. And he was very friendly and kind of tried to make conversation. And, of course, I was very friendly back and nice to him. And at some point, after a day or two, he invited us to come over for a beer at his tent, right? And part of me was like, of course, it's wonderful. And I realized the other part of me was saying, well, we have like 5 days left. I don't want to get too close to this guy because then what's going to happen? He's going to want to hang out with us all the time, right? He's going to want us to come over every evening. And I was really enjoying just kind of hanging out with Susanna and with my little son and just kind of hanging out by our tent, right? So I got to thinking, like, oh my gosh, I talk and I write about this, avoiding the thought system of separation and choosing the thought system of perfect love, right? But what I was actually doing is I was choosing separation. I was seeing some kind of value in the gap between me and this nice guy. And I thought about it a bit longer, and I realized the reason for this. The reason that we sometimes are trying to build walls or trying to create boundaries between us and other people, or gaps, let's call it, is that we are afraid that, we might feel like we don't want to spend every day with that person. We don't want to commit to what they might expect of us. And so rather than being honest about that, we end up trying to block relationships, trying to protect ourselves in this wonderful thought system of separation, which is the cause of ego, which is the cause of all the world's problems. And I realized the only way to do the right thing, which is to say yes to getting to know this guy, right? And to deal with the issue that maybe I would end up kind of not doing what I want to do the rest of the time, was that I would have to be willing to be honest. And of course, I immediately saw that throughout other relationships I have, it's the same thing. So the reason that we are afraid of those human connections is that we are afraid of being totally honest. We're afraid to say what our needs are. We're afraid to say, hey, I like you, I love hanging out with you, but maybe not every day, or maybe not every week, or even every month. And and if we are in a situation where maybe we don't enjoy what's happening with someone, we say, I want to do something else. We have to be honest with each other if we're going to value these one-to-one relationships. Now let's go a little bit deeper into this. And the interesting thing is, as I travel, I do like to read and to listen to some audiobooks in the car. And I'm always revisiting Course in Miracles. That's probably the main source of these teachings and what I talk about in this podcast. And of course, naturally, the Course in Miracles always gives you what you need at the time when you need it. Just that's how it works for some reason. And the topic was, of course, this idea of union and honesty. And I don't think I think we do need to think deeper and really stop and pause and go deeply into this topic. What's the big deal whether we choose to be alone? We might try to find some kind of comfort in being alone and watching TV, maybe just being with our partner and kind of excluding all others. But these values are the values of separation, exclusion. And the problem with that is that all forms of separation or creating these gaps between people is against life. If you think about it, life could not exist if it weren't for, across any species, plants, animals, whatever, it requires the coming together, the union of the male and female. alone, you cannot even create new life. There would be no life without coming together. So there's our first clue that total union with another person is required for life. Now think about it even further, and you can realize that everything you would do or say or think or create, pretty much, if it's not shared with another person, if you don't have two minds joining together, understanding that and sharing it, it's going to die. You could write the world's most amazing novel, but if no one ever reads it, if you don't know anyone, it's going to die. It never even comes to life. So we're talking about awakening. And I don't think that enough attention goes into the idea of honoring our relationships. I think so many spiritually alive or spiritual seekers, people who claim to be awakened, are trying to do this in isolation. And the reason is because we are afraid of what people think. We're afraid to be unusual. We're afraid to say our truth. We don't like to say our honesty, especially not in front of people who don't agree with us. Not at work, not in our friendships sometimes, not, so what percentage of your time do you actually get to be honest? Because if you're not being honest, what are you teaching? You're teaching a lie. You're teaching that you believe things you don't believe. Each time we allow judgment to be real. So someone might say, man, I'm so tired of this weather. I can't enjoy this summer. You say, yeah, man, I know it sucks. Well, you've just taught that person that you agree with that thought system. So why not try to say, well, it doesn't all depend on whether we enjoy ourselves. Kind of these external things don't really have that much influence. Why not teach? Why not be honest? You look at social media, and everyone is lying to one another. We're projecting these pictures and we're saying these things about ourselves that look so great, and we're so rich and famous, and we travel everywhere and all this, and our families are so happy. But that's not the truth. We all know it. We're all coming to know this, that it's a lie what you see on social media. So we're lying to each other. And so even if you come with the truth, which is what I try to do, where I try to show, oh my gosh, this is real for me. These ideas I've put into practice for many years, and it works. I am happy, right? I don't have these ups and downs. I don't have depression. I am genuinely happy. So I try to share this, and people just perceive it as another projection of my image or my ego, and it just isn't that. So through all this clutter and lies, you can't even be heard anymore. Life is a dream. In our sleep, we dream also. In our sleep, we have total control over the dream. There's no laws of physics. There's no other minds there to connect with or to negotiate with. Everything that happens in your sleeping dreams is all in your mind. And then you wake up and you think, well, that was just a dream. Now I'm back in reality. But the awakened, we understand that reality, what we call reality, the real world, the world around us, is also a dream. The world isn't happening to us. The cause of our suffering is not from the world. We cause our suffering. We're responsible for our illness and our sickness. If we're attacked, it's because we believe in attack and we use attack. And then we perceive the other person as attacking, but we've started that because we haven't shown perfect love to everyone we know. We haven't been totally honest with everyone we know. We reserve this idea of separation as a valuable thing. And unless you're willing to go all the way to salvation, all the way to awakening, to enlightenment, you're not there. You can't be free unless you're free. You can't be kind of free, because then that means you're not free. You can't love unless you love totally. That means you don't love. You can't end fear if you still have some fear. It hasn't ended. You can't be half pregnant. So if you want to be awakened, there can be no judgment. There has to be this acknowledgement that reality is happening for us, that sacrifice is not the way to go, because sacrifice is to do what you don't want to do. All we have to do is what we want to do. If you want to work and earn some money, well, you know why you want that money. You know why why it is. But you're not a victim. Nothing is happening to you. Life is a dream. The only difference between our waking dream of life and our sleeping dream of life is that in the waking dream, there are, laws of physics. We can't just decide to fly because we want to fly. And the other difference, and this is fundamental to this conversation here, is that in the waking dream, it is a shared dream between multiple minds. You don't get to have your version of life that is alone and doesn't involve other people. You can try to isolate yourself into your big houses and your big cars and have all the money you want and then try to just cut yourself off. But that's just kind of choosing death. It's no different. Because to take part in life is to take part in this dance between different minds. One-to-one relationships are the most fundamental spiritual practice, the reason why we are alive. That is the basis of this dream of life. For the consciousness in me to connect with the consciousness in you, and for us both to learn, for consciousness itself to learn through this dance. And to do that, we have to be honest with each other. Completely honest, but in a loving way. In the thought system of perfect love, which is what? Which is total acceptance, total honesty, sensitivity, generosity. And if we do this with another person, that person will learn to do this back with us, and we create the most beautiful relationship, which provides for healing, provides inspiration, provides a lot of fun and feeling good. Everything we want is found through loving one-to-one relationships where there are no gaps between each other, no private thoughts, no important private thoughts, certainly. The most important person to do this with is your romantic partner, your spouse, or whatever it may be, your children. But you can extend this throughout all your relationships. You can find a way to be appropriate, but not go along with the judgments. To offer true compassion and true understanding and brotherhood and sisterhood instead. And one of the ways that we're doing this, and believe me, this is not any kind of an advertisement. I'm going to start talking a lot about this, so if you don't want to hear about this, then maybe, just delete this podcast from your list. The I Am community. So we're starting this community of awakened people who understand the value of not just the teachings, not just that, looking within to as a source of peace and happiness and love, that we can't find anything in the external world, that everything of value comes from within us, but that we can't do that in isolation. So this has been, I'm fortunate that I know my mission in life. I know what I'm here to do, and it is to do this movement, which is based around a mobile app, but it's not really about a mobile app. It's about the movement. The app is just a technology that sort of enables this to happen. But the movement is that we have this, the teachings in our personal spiritual practice, so that we remain centered and we deal with, we eliminate fear and we align with the thought system of perfect love. But then we honor relationships. So the app is a community of people who share this purpose. And by the way, you cannot ever create union with a person who doesn't share the same purpose. It's very important that the person shares the purpose of perfect love, or a purpose of brotherhood and sisterhood and harmony with you. Otherwise, they're not going to agree to do that with you. So here's a community of people who, this is the stated purpose. That's what you're there to do. And beyond that, you create statements, we call them I am statements, where you describe what you want. Stating your needs and what you want is the most pure thing in the world. It's our natural functioning. It's how nature pulls us toward what we should be doing. Whatever excites you is what you should be doing, right? So this app actually connects people based on mutual, compatible wants. And then, of course, you reach out, you write to each other, and you do that thing together, right? And the coolest thing, I mean, this is such a huge movement. I found also during my thinking during the last 10 days that this thing launched like earlier this year, and I've not really brought it the way that I needed to. And actually, Marianne Williamson inspired me. What she's doing in the presidential campaign, she's just bringing it, And I've kind of watered this down and tried to make it appeal to everyone. And the thing is, that's not really what this is. This is a really big idea. And it's not about me. It's about this community of people who are already awakened, but we're living in isolation. And so we can't really realize the potential of, our human potential. How do we tap into our potential if we're not creating those relationships, those unions of minds and souls and bodies to make things happen together, to make it real, to bring things to life? So imagine the potential if you were able to have, millions of people who are identified as awakened, who want this for themselves and their lives, who then furthermore connect based on mutual wants and needs. And then we take it even further and right in the app, it's called I Am by InfoBeing. It's on the App Store and Google Play. Right in the app, there is a built-in virtual currency called I Am. And the idea is to use that virtual currency for buying and selling things, for doing something for each other, and then paying one another through this currency, rather than using the real world other forms of currency. So the reason for this is that the idea was that this technology contains everything we need to be free. Freedom starts with aligning your mind away from fear and toward perfect love. You can call it God, you can call it consciousness. And then it goes on to being able to connect with other people without interference from centralized authorities. And this is what, and if you think about it, think of how much the centralized authorities want us not to have the ability to connect one-to-one. They want media to be centralized, where we're all watching the same shows. Government wants to monitor every conversation. Corporations don't want us to buy things from each other. They want us to buy things from them. So the whole system, this whole egoic system that we, this dream of hell that we all have accepted as though it's inevitable, as though we have no choice, is designed so that we don't do what I Am by InfoBeing is designed to do. And the app is available, and it works. One caveat, that maybe the message and the alerts aren't working at the system level right now. We're getting that resolved. But if you check the app daily, that should be no problem. And you should check it daily. It should be a daily spiritual practice. On the app are daily short teachings or meditations. There's an icon in the upper right corner. And I update that every day with teachings. And feel free to write me if you'd like to include some different teachings that are spiritually alive, about love, about consciousness, about the end of fear, about relationships, happy relationships. And so we check the teaching once a day, do a little meditation, because any kind of spiritual practice has to be daily, along with meditation, along with other things you might be doing, yoga, whatever it may be. There has to be some kind of content that you're consuming to keep this alive, to keep this real for you in the face of a world that tries to make itself very real and isn't. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the connecting together with people. And then there's a virtual currency. So you have all the pieces there to be able to do whatever you want to with other people without external interference by centralization. All forms of freedom are decentralized. There is no centralized freedom. Government's never going to bring freedom. It's going to always inhibit freedom. And the idea is through a spiritual nonprofit, the I Am by InfoBeing Foundation. This is a spiritual movement where perhaps a Course in Miracles is our Bible. It is probably mine, and the center of our faith is to honor loving one-to-one relationships. So I would like to invite everyone listening who shares that purpose to obviously sign up, and then tell your friends. Be honest with your friends and family about anyone else who you think might be interested in this purpose. There's a referral code you can use, and you can get one free I Am, which is worth about $10. And that's in the app as well. And the idea is that as we make this real, as we choose to use it in the present moment, it's already here. If we make it real, the value of that currency, it's a cryptocurrency, although the version of the app is centralized in the server. There is a ERC20 token, the IM token, which is the cryptocurrency. And the idea is that long term, as this becomes more real, as we get funding by you can buy some IM through the app, that we're going to build a decentralized blockchain version, which is unstoppable. So I hope it makes some kind of sense why I'm talking about. We've covered so many topics. I know it's the longest podcast I've done, and it's bouncing all around, but at the same time, I think you see where I'm going. It's about relationship. It's about union. And without that awareness that this dream of life requires union, you're lost, you're isolated, you're depressed, you're miserable, and that's how society has become. And that's what we have to reverse and undo. But it's up to us to choose that, to choose this purpose, to not be afraid of each other, to be honest. If we don't like what's happening, just say so. It's like jumping into a pool. Just jump. Just say the truth, and let things unfold. Stop trying to please people by being dishonest about what you really think and feel and want. It's okay. We're all the same. By being honest, you're allowing everyone else to be honest. And you're creating the most wonderful relationships. So I consider today, August 11th, the first day of the IM community, the movement starting. There's only a couple hundred users so far, but it's going to get busy real fast. I'm going to go big and bold with this, and I hope you join me in this. Please feel free to get in touch, mark.manny@abscondo.com. You can also get the teachings at my blog, abscondo.com, and just kind of stay on top of what's going on. Please let me know if there's any way you'd want to take part in this or help with this. The main thing is just to get the word out, and there's a built-in feature where, once again, you get value. You get these IM points you can spend to buy things on the app just by telling your friends. Just use your unique referral code. Please don't consider this any kind of an advertisement, because this is actually just the core of what I'm doing here. So if this isn't interesting, then if it's only about sitting back and being a spectator to what matters most in life, which is what finding true fulfillment and ending suffering, lasting happiness. That's what we're doing here. And anyone who shares that purpose, please, let's get together on this app and let's make it happen. I'm going to leave you with one of my Abscondo songs. It's called Dreamscape.
We build up walls, pretend to stand tall, and swallow thoughts like corporate food.